How exactly did artists such as Rembrandt begin their oil paintings? In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to set up what is known as a monochromatic underpainting.
This is considered a monochromatic sketch. We started very loosely, and now what we're going to do is we're going to build up and tighten up the drawing. That means that we're going to put a little bit more detail in preparation for the application of the actual opaque paint. So that's what we're going to be doing and just checking our overall drawing. So that's just a standard procedure that I've talked about in my other courses. So let's just go ahead and talk about the materials. I'm using a beautiful sable brush by Skoda number 4. And the palette is going to be raw umber and bone black. And the reason that I limited the palette is because this is just the first initial layers, and I'm not going to use very expensive colors for, just the initial lay-in. So let's just go ahead and begin by measuring some of our proportions. This is a loose sketch, so I have my reproduction right next to me, and I'm going to go ahead and measure some of the proportions just to make sure that the scale of the figures are correct. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just to begin. So pretty much so far, some of these, and this is just a matter of correcting what you have. If you find that you haven't really done a good job, that's okay. You could paint over it and just make some corrections. I'm going to go ahead and make a little correction here using raw umber, diluting the raw umber with just a tiny bit of linseed oil. Okay. And mostly paint, just a little bit of oil. You could add solvent if you like. So the idea here is just to make a quick correction. Just get this drawing a little bit more accurate. And I'm also going to work on the shapes, the shadow shapes. This is almost like a watercolor. It's a watercolor painting for now. There's a lot of dark shapes here that I'm going to be for later because they do need to be addressed almost individually. So basically some basic tones, but generally that use opaque paint to describe that. So for now, I'm just going to focus on the big dark shapes. And that's the thing with a painting like this, it could be very overwhelming. You could essentially start getting caught up with all the little details, and you don't want to do that. Most important thing is to stay focused on the big shapes. The big shapes are they act almost as anchors. So for example, this figure needs to go over, way over. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And that's the beauty of this. You could just draw right over what you have. You don't really need to be so accurate initially. Rembrandt's technique is very loose in that sense. And initially when I started working on this, it's working very loosely, just with basic placement. And now it's the time to start keying in some of the placements. So you could start by just drawing directly on top of what you have and trying to get a nicer sense of proportion and a placement of figures. So once I have all these figures placed, I'll be able to focus on establishing some light masses. For now, it's just a matter of continuing to lay these figures. All right, so we're going to go ahead and work on this figure now and just establish the relationship with all the other figures. So I'm going to work up this figure here. So when you're working on these compositions and this looser style of 17th century painters, it's important to understand that they were, almost like a sketch initially, and then they decided then they would start building up the rest of the areas with color, opaque color. Rembrandt worked some areas with a lot of impasto, so he's an artist that wouldn't have invested a lot of time in a very, very thorough under sketch. This is just placement, and he was able to change forms very quickly.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this demo, please consider subscribing to my channel. If you want to learn more about my drawing and painting techniques, check out my full courses available at Udemy. The links are in the description below.